The next thing we want to do is lay out our framing material on our table. It's probably a good idea to talk at this point about what the names of these pieces are, because they've had names for a long time. The two pieces at the ends, the bottom and the top of the flat, are called end rails. The pieces on the sides, usually the longest pieces, are called the stiles. And the centerpiece, there could be many of them, but in this case there's one, it's called a toggle. You'll notice I'm laying out this flat on the corner of my table. I trust this sheet of plywood very much. I trust the fact that it's square. And in this case, for something fairly large, it's about as big a framing square as you can find. So we're going to use that to help us square up the material. Also, I don't want it to move around. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to attach these pieces to my table so that they don't move. That way I can save a couple of hands. And I'm going to make sure that it's lined up very nicely on the end of my plywood. You'll also notice I'm putting my screws in a particular location that is inside of where my corner blocks are going to be in a moment, so that I don't build the whole flat having it screwed down to the table before I start. Now that we have the flat laid out on the table, we need to assemble it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a corner block to this corner. And we don't want to, when we go to do that, we don't want to put the corner block right in the corner of the flat, because if we were to have another flat that lines up to it in some way, it's going to get in the way of that attachment. So we want to always lay our corner blocks and our keystones in a certain distance from the edge. Ideally, that distance would be the thickness of whatever the flats are that we're building. And in this case, we're building a hardcover flat, and that means that the flat is going to be the thickness of our material here, which is 3/4 of an inch, plus the thickness of the cover, which is 1/4 of an inch, so 1 inch total. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take a piece of my framing and a piece of quarter ply, and I'm going to mark the corner so that I'm sure not to attach the corner block outside that line. And then I'm going to mark all the other corners while I'm here. Okay, now those are all marked. Now I'm ready to attach my corner block, my first corner block. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mark the corner block so that, because I need to use some glue to attach this. And it's a good idea to not have glue going everywhere in your world. Otherwise, we would just glue the entire back of the corner block, but we'd be dropping glue here, and that would make a mess for someone down the road.